This is where I'll be working?
Yes.
Then let's work.
There is something you should understand first. The sun. 7 maids left before last week.
8. The agency told me.
You still came?
I needed a job, and difficult teenagers don't frighten me.
Another maid. How long what? Before she quits? 3 days. 1.
Get out!
I quit! I cannot work around your son anymore!
8 maids had already run from the Mafia boss' stubborn son. Then Kate walked through the door. She was the first woman he couldn't frighten.
The porcelain cup hit the marble floor and shattered. "Get out!" 16-year-old Seo Taeyul shouted. The young housemaid froze beside the breakfast table. "I said get out," Taeyul said, sweeping the untouched breakfast tray away from him. The maid covered her mouth as tears filled her eyes. At the doorway stood Ryuu Hajun, Taeyul's father, and one of Seoul's most feared mafia bosses. Hajun's expression remained controlled, but before he could speak, the maid ripped off her apron. "I quit," she said. "I cannot work around your son anymore." She hurried from the room. She was the 7th maid to leave in 3 months, and she would not be the last, because everyone in that mansion feared Seo Taeyul. Everyone, except the woman arriving at the front gate that afternoon. Her name was Kate, and Taeyul had no idea that the one person he could not frighten would eventually become the woman his father could not imagine living without. Before we continue, subscribe and turn on your notifications if you enjoy emotional Afro-Korean stories about family, unexpected love, and people finding their way back to one another. And tell us in the comments, what would you do with a stubborn teenager who had already chased 7 maids from the house? Later that morning, silence covered the massive Seoul mansion. It was not peaceful silence. It was the kind employees had learned to maintain whenever Taeyul was awake. A cleaner carefully pushed her cart through the hallway. She heard footsteps upstairs and immediately turned around. Another worker saw Taeyul approaching the kitchen and quietly stepped through another door. Taeyul noticed. He always noticed, and somehow their fear seemed to make him worse. "Where is my black hoodie?" Taeyul asked Mrs. Choi, the longtime housekeeper. "It is being washed, young master," Mrs. Choi said. "I wanted it today." "I can have it dried quickly." "I said I wanted it today." Mrs. Choi lowered her eyes. "I am sorry," she said. Taeyul walked away without answering. From the staircase, Hajun had watched everything. Ryuu Hajun was 37, extraordinarily handsome, tall and broad-shouldered, with neatly brushed back black hair, sharp dark brown eyes, and a calm face that rarely revealed what he was thinking. Black and gray tiger tattoos climbed from his left forearm beneath his sleeve and appeared again along the left side of his neck. Outside the mansion, people knew him as a powerful mafia boss. Inside it, he was simply a father who had run out of answers. "Taeyul," Hajun said. The teenager stopped. "Come here." "I have school. You have 5 minutes." Taeyul turned reluctantly. Hajun walked into the family sitting room. "Mrs. Choi has worked here since before you could walk," Hajun said. So? "So you will not speak to her that way." Taeyul looked away. Hajun waited. Taeyul finally said, "Fine." "That is not an apology." "I said fine." Hajun's jaw tightened, but Taeyul was already walking away. Later that afternoon, another problem began. Taeyul returned from school furious. His teacher had called Hajun after Taeyul refused to complete a group project. When another student challenged him, Taeyul had walked out of class. His school bag landed on the entrance floor. A staff member hurried forward to pick it up. "Leave it," Hajun said. The worker stopped. Taeyul looked at his father. "You dropped it," Hajun said. "You pick it up." Taeyul stared at the bag for several seconds. Then he picked it up himself. It was a tiny victory, but Hajun knew the real problem was much bigger. That evening, the 8th maid resigned. She had entered Taeyul's room to collect laundry after knocking twice. Taeyul accused her of touching his headphones. "I didn't touch them," she said nervously. "You're lying. I only collected your clothes." "Then why were they moved?" "I don't know." Taeyul opened the bedroom door. "Get out." The maid walked downstairs crying. 10 minutes later, she was packing. Mrs. Choi found Hajun in his study. "Sir," she said quietly, "we have another resignation." Hajun closed his eyes briefly. 8? 8. Find someone else. Mrs. Choi hesitated. That is becoming difficult. Hajun looked at her. Why? Mrs. Choi almost laughed, but stopped herself. Because the domestic agencies talk to each other, sir. Hajun leaned back. What exactly are they saying? Mrs. Choi swallowed. That nobody should accept a position in this house. For perhaps the first time that week, Ryuu Hajun looked genuinely defeated. 2 days later, Mrs. Choi entered his study carrying a resume. I found someone, she said. Hajun immediately looked suspicious. Does she know about Taeyul? Yes. And she still wants the job? Yes. Why? You should ask her. That afternoon, Kate arrived. She stepped from a taxi carrying one suitcase and a simple handbag. The guard at the gate stared for half a second before remembering his manners. Kate was strikingly beautiful. She was a Ghanaian woman with very deep, dark chocolate skin that glowed warmly beneath the afternoon light. Her face was youthful and elegant, with expressive dark brown eyes, naturally full lips and high cheekbones. Her long, beautifully arranged cornrows were gathered into a graceful braided style that fell behind her shoulders. She wore a modest cream blouse, dark trousers, and flat shoes. She looked at the enormous mansion. Then she looked at Mrs. Choi. This is where I'll be working? Kate asked. Mrs. Choi nodded. Yes. Kate smiled. Then let's work. Mrs. Choi did not smile back. Instead, she said, there is something you should understand first. The sun? Mrs. Choi blinked. They told me, Kate said. Not enough. Mrs. Choi began walking. 7 maids left before last week. 8, Kate corrected. Mrs. Choi stopped. Kate smiled slightly. The agency updated me this morning. For the first time, Mrs. Choi smiled. You still came? I needed a job, Kate said, and difficult teenagers don't frighten me. Mrs. Choi's smile disappeared. Don't tell him that. Kate laughed softly. I wasn't planning to. Upstairs, Taeyul stood beside a window. He had already seen her. Another maid. He shook his head. How long? He muttered. His cousin Min-jae, who was visiting after school, looked up from his phone. How long what? Before she quits. Min-jae grinned. 3 days. Taeyul looked downstairs again. 1. That evening, Kate entered the dining room carrying a tray. Taeyul looked up. So you're the new one, he said. Kate placed the dishes down. My name is Kate. I didn't ask. Kate calmly adjusted a plate. Taeyul waited for the nervous reaction he usually received. Nothing happened. He tried again. I don't eat mushrooms. There are no mushrooms, Kate said. Taeyul looked down. She was right. I don't like that soup. That's okay, Kate said. Mrs. Choi said there are other options in the kitchen. Taeyul frowned. Go bring one. Kate looked at him. Which one would you like? I don't know. Then when you decide, tell me. Kate walked toward the door. Taeyul stared at her. Wait. Kate turned. Did you hear me? Yes. Then why are you leaving? Because you haven't decided what you want. Min-jae lowered his head, desperately hiding a smile. Taeyul's eyes narrowed. Bring me noodles. Kate nodded. Certainly. She returned 10 minutes later. Taeyul tasted them. Too salty. Kate tasted a tiny spoonful from the serving bowl. They are. Taeyul had expected an argument. Instead, Kate picked up the bowl. I'll replace them, she said. Taeyul looked confused. There had been no fear, no trembling, no desperate apology, just an answer. The following morning, he tried harder. Kate had folded his school uniform and placed it neatly outside his bedroom, after Mrs. Choi warned her never to enter without permission. Taeyul came downstairs carrying the shirt. This isn't ironed properly, he said. Kate inspected it. It is. No, it isn't. Kate looked again. Where? Taeyul pointed randomly. There. Kate examined the perfectly smooth fabric. That's a seam. Min-jae nearly choked on his juice. Taeyul glared at him. Stop laughing. Kate took the shirt. I can iron it again if you want, she said. Taeyul looked almost disappointed. Forget it. He grabbed it back and walked upstairs. Hajun had witnessed the entire exchange from the kitchen doorway. He looked at Kate. Kate looked at him. "Good morning, sir," she said. Hajun's eyes remained on her. "You aren't afraid of him?" Kate considered the statement. "Should I be?" Most people would have laughed nervously. Hajun did not. "My son has made grown adults resign." Kate nodded. "I heard. And that doesn't concern you?" "It concerns me," Kate said. "It doesn't frighten me." Hajun studied her. "What's the difference?" Kate picked up the empty breakfast tray. "Fear makes people react before they think." Then she walked away. Hajun watched her longer than he intended. A few days later, Taeyul created his biggest test. Kate entered the laundry room and found nearly every clean towel in the mansion dumped across the floor. Taeyul stood in the doorway. "Oops," he said. Kate looked at the towels, then at him. "You dropped these?" "Maybe." Kate nodded. "Okay." She walked past him. Taeyul turned. "Aren't you cleaning them?" "No." "That's your job. Washing and organizing them is." Kate continued walking. Taeyul followed. "They're on the floor." "I noticed." "So pick them up." Kate stopped. "Did I put them there?" "No." "Then the person who did should pick them up." Taeyul laughed. "You're a maid." "Yes," Kate said. "So?" "So you clean." "I work here," Kate said calmly. "That doesn't mean I exist to clean up things someone deliberately throws down." Taeyul stepped closer. "What if I don't pick them up?" "Then you won't have clean towels." She walked away. Taeyul stood speechless. 10 minutes later, Mrs. Choi passed the laundry room. Taeyul was picking up towels. She almost dropped the basket she was carrying. That night, she told Hajun. Hajun looked genuinely surprised. "He picked them up?" "Everyone." "Did Kate force him?" "No." "Threaten him?" "No." "Then how?" Mrs. Choi smiled. She left him there. For the first time in months, Hajun laughed, but Taeyul was nowhere near finished. The following week, he refused to wake for school. Mrs. Choi knocked. A cleaner knocked. His private tutor called. Nobody could move him. Finally, Kate stood outside his bedroom. "Taeyul," Kate said, "it is 7:15. Go away." "Okay." Kate walked downstairs. At 8:30, Taeyul came racing down the staircase. "Why didn't anyone wake me?" Kate was arranging flowers. "I did." "You should have kept trying." "You told me to go away." "I have an exam." Kate nodded. "You should hurry." Taeyul stared at her in disbelief. Hajun stepped from the hallway holding his car keys. "Your driver left at 8, Hajun said. Taeyul turned. "Dad!" "You knew the schedule. Drive me." "I have somewhere to be." Taeyul's expression changed. For once, nobody rescued him. 20 minutes later, he was sitting on a city bus with Minjae. "This is your fault," Taeyul said. Minjae laughed. "How?" "I don't know yet." That afternoon, Taeyul returned home furious. He stormed past Kate, then stopped. "I made the exam." Kate looked up. "Good. I was 3 minutes early." "Even better." Taeyul waited. Kate continued arranging flowers. "Aren't you going to say anything else?" Kate looked confused. "Congratulations?" He frowned. Then, unexpectedly, he smiled. It disappeared almost immediately, but Hajun saw it from upstairs, and something about that tiny smile stayed with him. Later that night, Hajun found Kate alone in the kitchen. She was preparing tea. "You handled him differently," Hajun said. Kate turned. "I didn't handle him." "What would you call it?" "I let him deal with the result of his own decision." Hajun leaned against the counter. "Everyone keeps trying to control him." "Including you." Hajun's expression sharpened. Kate immediately realized how direct she had sounded. "I apologize, sir." "Don't." Kate looked at him. Hajun loosened his tie slightly. "Maybe you're right." Kate handed him a cup of tea. Hajun took it. Their fingers briefly touched. Both noticed. Neither mentioned it. "You have children?" Hajun asked. "No." "Then where did you learn this?" Kate became quieter. My younger brother was difficult after our father died. Hajun's expression softened. How old were you? 20. And your brother? 14. What happened? Kate looked down at her tea. I learned that shouting louder than someone doesn't mean they heard you. Hajun remained silent. Kate looked toward the doorway. Taeyul is angry. At me? I don't know yet. That answer bothered Hajun, because he suddenly realized something. He did not know either. 2 days later, the mansion became frighteningly quiet again. Taeyul had received a school disciplinary notice. He had humiliated another student during lunch, and the boy had left the cafeteria crying. Hajun placed the notice on the dining table. Explain, Hajun said. Taeyul crossed his arms. He annoyed me. So you embarrassed him in front of everyone? He should stop being weak. Kate, standing several feet away, froze. Hajun's face hardened. You will apologize tomorrow. No. Taeyul, I said no. Hajun stood. So did I. For several seconds, father and son stared at each other. Then Taeyul shouted, You don't care what happened. He pushed his chair back and stormed upstairs. The mansion fell silent. Kate looked toward Hajun. Hajun's hands tightened against the table, but Kate said nothing. That evening, she carried clean bedding upstairs. As she passed Taeyul's room, she heard something hit the floor. Then silence. Kate knocked. Go away. She continued walking. Then she heard him say something quieter. You people always leave anyway. Kate stopped. She turned slowly. The bedroom door remained closed. Suddenly the problem looked different. Not solved, not excused, but different. And Kate finally understood that Taeyul had not been trying to make everyone afraid simply because he enjoyed power. He had been testing how quickly they would leave. The question was why, and the answer was connected to the one subject nobody in that mansion ever discussed, Taeyul's mother. The next morning, Kate did something Taeyul did not expect. Nothing. She did not ask about what he had said. She did not tell Hajun. She did not suddenly become unusually kind. She simply placed breakfast on the table. Taeyul watched her suspiciously. You heard me last night, he said. Yes, Kate said. Are you going to tell my father? No. Why? Because you weren't talking to him. Taeyul stared at her. Kate walked toward the kitchen. Kate, she stopped. My mother left when I was 9, Taeyul said. Kate slowly turned. There it was, the answer. She didn't die, Kate asked. No. Taeyul's voice became bitter. She left. Kate remained quiet. She promised she was coming back, he said. She didn't. Kate sat in the chair opposite him. Taeyul looked down. After that, Dad hired people, nannies, tutors, maids. Everybody says they'll stay. His jaw tightened. Then they leave. Kate understood, but understanding him did not mean excusing him. So you make them leave first, Kate said. Taeyul looked at her. At least then, I know when it's happening. Kate nodded slowly. That explains it. Taeyul seemed relieved. Then Kate added, It doesn't make what you've done right? His expression changed. You made people cry, Kate said. You embarrassed people who were trying to help you. Your pain doesn't give you permission to create pain for everyone around you. Taeyul pushed his chair back. I knew you'd start lecturing. Kate stood. I'm not. Sounds like it. You asked why people leave. I'm giving you part of the answer. Taeyul walked away. Kate did not follow him. Later that afternoon, Taeyul entered the laundry room. He found the maid who had been accused of touching his headphones, collecting her final belongings. She had returned for documents Mrs. Choi had kept for her. Taeyul stopped. She stiffened when she saw him. He noticed. For the first time, he saw what everyone else saw when he entered a room. Fear. He looked away. You didn't touch them, Taeyul said. The former maid stared. What? My headphones. He swallowed. I found them behind my desk. She said nothing. Taeyul struggled with the next words. I was wrong. Still silence. I'm sorry, he said. The woman nodded slowly. Thank you for saying that. She left. Taeyul remained in the hallway. Kate had not convinced him to apologize. She did not even know the woman was there. He had made the decision himself. That evening, Hajun received a message from Mrs. Choi explaining what happened. He read it twice. Then he found Kate on the rear terrace. "You knew?" Hajun asked. "Knew what?" Taeyul apologized. Kate smiled. "No." Hajun sat beside her. For a moment, neither spoke. "He hasn't apologized voluntarily in years," Hajun said. "He's growing." "Because of you." Kate shook her head. "Because of himself?" Hajun looked at her. "You always refuse credit. And you take responsibility for everything." Hajun smiled faintly. "Occupational habit." Kate laughed. The sound caught him off guard. He had begun finding reasons to come home earlier. He noticed when Kate changed her cornrow style. He noticed that she always drank tea after dinner. He noticed that when she laughed, the entire severity of the mansion seemed to disappear for a moment. And Kate noticed him too. The tattoos, the quiet authority, the way everyone outside the family seemed intimidated by him. But she also saw the father who checked whether his son had eaten. The man who stood outside Taeyul's bedroom after arguments, but sometimes did not know whether to knock. The man behind the reputation. And that man was becoming dangerously difficult for her to ignore. A week later, another test arrived. Taeyul was invited to a school gathering. He refused. Hajun found him playing video games. "You're going," Hajun said. "No." "You committed to it." "I changed my mind." Hajun took the controller and placed it on the table. Taeyul stood angrily. Kate passed the doorway. "Kate," Taeyul called. She stopped. "Tell him I shouldn't have to go." Kate looked between them. "No." Taeyul blinked. "You're supposed to be on my side." "I am not on anyone's side." "Then whose side are you on?" Kate smiled. "Common sense." Hajun almost laughed. Taeyul rolled his eyes, but he attended. 3 hours later, he returned home smiling. He had enjoyed himself. He entered the kitchen where Kate was preparing fruit. "Don't say it," Taeyul warned. Kate continued cutting strawberries. "Say what?" "That you were right." "I wasn't going to." "Good," Kate nodded. "I'll think it instead." Taeyul stared at her, then laughed. Hajun heard them from the hallway, and for once his house sounded like a home. But happiness created another problem. Taeyul noticed his father's feelings before Kate did. One evening, Hajun walked into the dining room. Kate was standing near the window. Hajun's eyes went directly to her. Taeyul saw it. Then Kate smiled. Hajun smiled back. Taeyul slowly lowered his fork. "Oh no," he whispered. Minjae, sitting beside him, followed his gaze. Then Minjae's eyes widened. "Oh." Taeyul looked horrified. "No." Minjae whispered, "Your dad likes Kate." "Stop talking. He definitely likes her." "I said stop." Across the room, Hajun asked Kate about her day. Taeyul dropped his fork loudly. Everyone looked at him. "I'm finished," Taeyul announced. He left. Kate frowned. "What happened?" Minjae wisely continued eating. The next few days became awkward. Taeyul became distant from Kate. Not cruel, just distant. Finally, Kate stopped him. "Did I do something?" "No." "Then why are you avoiding me?" "I'm not." "You changed seats at breakfast." "I like the other chair." "You stopped coming into the kitchen." "I'm busy." Kate folded her arms. "Taeyul." He looked at her. "Do you like my father?" Kate froze. That was not the question she expected. "Why would you ask me that?" "Because he likes you." Kate's heart jumped. "You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Taeyul looked suddenly younger. "If you two become something, what happens when you leave?" Kate's expression softened. There it was again. Not anger, fear. "Taeyul," Kate said, "whatever happens between adults is something adults must decide." "That isn't an answer." "No," Kate said, "it isn't." Taeyul walked away. Kate remained still, because the teenager had forced her to acknowledge something she had been avoiding. She had feelings for Hajun, and that terrified her more than Taeyul ever had. Later that night, Hajun found Kate preparing to leave the kitchen. "We need to talk," he said. Kate's heartbeat quickened. "About Taeyul?" "No." Hajun stepped closer. About us. Kate looked at him. Is there an us? I want there to be. Silence. Hajun continued. I've tried ignoring this. Kate's eyes lowered. So have I, she admitted. Hajun's expression changed. Then why are we still pretending? Because I work for you. Then that changes before anything else happens. Kate looked up. Hajun's answer was immediate. I will never use your job to pressure you into a relationship. Kate studied him. And Taeyul? He comes first. For both of us, Kate said. Hajun nodded. For both of us. He did not touch her. He simply gave her space to decide. The following morning, Kate asked Mrs. Choi to change her employment arrangement so she would no longer be personally assigned to Hajun or Taeyul. Hajun respected the boundary. For weeks, nothing romantic happened. Instead, something more important happened. Taeyul changed. Not overnight. He still argued, he still complained, he still tested limits. But one morning, he carried his own breakfast plate into the kitchen. Another day, he apologized to Mrs. Choi for shouting. At school, he completed the group project he had previously abandoned. When another student made a mistake during their presentation, Taeyul did not humiliate him. He simply continued. His teacher called Hajun afterward. I don't know what changed, she said, but your son is becoming a different young man. Hajun looked across the room at Taeyul. No, Hajun said, he's becoming himself. Then the past returned. Taeyul's mother contacted the family. She wanted to see him. When Hajun told Taeyul, the teenager went pale. No. You don't have to, Hajun said. Why now? She says she wants to explain. After 7 years? Hajun remained calm. You decide whether you want to hear her. Taeyul turned toward Kate. Kate said nothing. Tell me what to do, Taeyul demanded. Kate shook her head. No. Why? Because this decision belongs to you. Taeyul looked frustrated, then thoughtful. 2 days later, he agreed to meet his mother in the mansion sitting room. Hajun remained nearby. Kate stayed away completely. Taeyul needed no rescuing. The conversation lasted 40 minutes. When his mother left, Taeyul walked upstairs without speaking. Hajun started after him, then stopped. Give him time, Hajun said quietly to himself. An hour later, Taeyul came downstairs. Kate was watering a plant. She said leaving was her decision, Taeyul said. Kate turned. She said Dad didn't chase her away. Kate remained silent. She wasn't ready to be a mother. His voice shook slightly. She apologized. Kate set down the watering can. Are you okay? I don't know. That is allowed. Taeyul nodded. Then he said something Kate would never forget. I spent 7 years punishing everybody else because one person left. Kate's eyes softened. Taeyul looked toward the staff working nearby. I think I owe a lot of people apologies. The following weekend, Taeyul asked Hajun for the names of every employee who had resigned because of him. There were 12. He wrote 12 letters. Nobody forced him. Nobody dictated the words. He did it himself. And when the last envelope was sealed, Hajun placed a hand on his son's shoulder. I'm proud of you, Hajun said. Taeyul looked embarrassed. Don't make it weird. Hajun smiled. Too late. Several months passed. The mansion changed. Employees laughed in the kitchen again. Nobody changed direction when Taeyul entered a hallway. Taeyul joined his school football club, improved his grades, and began helping Minjae study. And Kate stayed. But she was no longer simply the maid who had refused to fear him. She had become part of the family. One evening, Hajun invited Kate onto the terrace. Taeyul secretly watched from an upstairs window. Minjae stood beside him. You're spying, Minjae said. Be quiet. Outside, Hajun faced Kate. I've waited because I wanted you to be certain, Hajun said. Kate smiled. And if I'm certain now? Hajun stepped closer. Then I would tell you that I love you. Kate's smile disappeared into stunned silence. Hajun continued. I love your strength. I love that you never treated my son as a problem to be fixed. I love that you challenged me without trying to control me. Kate's eyes filled with emotion. And I love you, Hajun said, not because you changed this family for us, but because of who you are when nobody is asking you to be anything. Kate looked at him for several seconds, then she smiled. I love you too, she said. Upstairs, Min-jae whispered, I knew it. Taeyul shoved him away from the window. Months later, Hajun and Kate stood together before their closest family and friends. Hajun wore black, his tiger tattoo visible above his collar. Kate wore an elegant ivory gown that made her very deep dark chocolate skin glow beautifully. Her intricate cornrows were styled into a breathtaking braided updo. Before the ceremony began, Taeyul approached her. I need to tell you something, he said. Kate smiled. What? When you first came here, I gave you 1 day. 1 day for what? Before you quit. Kate laughed. I remember. Taeyul became serious. Thank you for not being afraid of me. Kate shook her head. That isn't what mattered. What did? You eventually stopped wanting people to be afraid of you. Taeyul looked toward his father. I didn't change because you convinced me. I know. I changed because I finally hated what I was becoming. Kate nodded. That decision had to be yours. Taeyul smiled, then he surprised her by hugging her. Welcome to the family, Kate, he said. Kate held him tightly. I thought I was already family. Taeyul laughed. You were. Later, Hajun took Kate's hand before everyone they loved. The powerful Mafia boss who once controlled almost every part of his world had learned that love was the one thing he could never command. He could only offer it, and Kate chose him freely. After the ceremony, Taeyul stood between them for a photograph. Smile, the photographer said. Taeyul looked at his father. You know she still takes my side more than yours. Hajun raised an eyebrow. She doesn't take anyone's side. Kate smiled. I take common sense's side. Taeyul burst out laughing. Hajun shook his head. Then Kate slipped her hand into Hajun's. He looked at her. You're happy? Hajun asked. Kate smiled. Very. Hajun leaned closer and kissed her gently as their family applauded, and the mansion that had once been known for slammed doors, resignations, and frightened employees became known for something entirely different. Laughter, family, second chances, and a stubborn boy who finally understood that people could love him without being controlled into staying. Kate never rescued Taeyul. She never forced him to change. She simply refused to participate in the fear he had built around himself. Taeyul made the harder choice on his own. He faced what his behavior had done. He apologized. He grew. And in the process, he stopped pushing away the very people he was afraid to lose. As the evening ended, Hajun and Kate stood together on the terrace. The soul light stretched beneath them. You know what still surprises me? Hajun asked. What? Kate said. You weren't afraid of this family. Kate smiled. Oh, I was afraid sometimes. Hajun looked surprised. You never showed it. Being brave doesn't mean you never feel fear, Kate said. Sometimes it means fear doesn't get to make the decision. Hajun smiled. He took her hand. Inside the mansion, Taeyul shouted, Dad, Kate, we're cutting the cake without you. Kate laughed. We should go. Hajun held her hand tighter. In a minute. Kate looked into his eyes. You have exactly 1 minute. Hajun smiled. Yes, ma'am. Kate laughed again. Then they walked back inside together, not as Mafia boss and maid, not as employer and employee, but as husband and wife. And waiting for them inside was the stubborn son who had once made an entire mansion fear his footsteps. Now smiling among the same people he had finally learned to respect. If this story touched you, subscribe to this channel and turn on your notifications so you don't miss our next Afro-Korean Mafia story. And before you go, tell us in the comments, do you think Kate handled Taeyul the right way by refusing to fear him while still allowing him to face the consequences of his own choices? And which moment changed Taeyul the most? The employees leaving, Kate refusing to rescue him, or finally hearing the truth from his mother?